Hello there. What is going on, everybody? It is the special studio announcement watch party. There's a lot to talk about before the stream goes live, and we are definitely we're going to watch it. If you are new here to the channel, we're going to be doing our giveaway announcement winner on Friday. We'll be doing some giveaways in the stream today. So for every 100 viewers we get, we'll do another giveaway. Starting off with some Star Wars Legion stuff. We got some Legion promos. We got a couple of Force pushes. We got Force push promos. These were the first AMG promo for Legion, and they're different languages. So you don't know what language you're going to get. I think we've got a couple of we got Spanish and we've got French and German. So you might get one of those. So we're going to do some Force Push giveaways in the chat channel. And, again, for every 100 viewers we get. So make sure you share this out. We'll do more giveaways. So once we hit 100 viewers, we'll do the first one. And so on and so forth. We'll keep going. We'll probably actually announce them after the stream. So be sure to stick around. You can watch after. Now, they are streaming on their Twitch. If you want to watch on their Twitch, you can go over to twitch.tv and go to the Atomic Mass Games channel, and you can watch there. You can also watch here if you want. It doesn't have to be just one or the other. It can be both. I don't know if they're going to, answer questions in the chat or not. I'm not sure. So sometimes for big announcements and stuff, it's just they're putting stuff out, and then they kind of answer questions, give or take, in different formats. So that's how that tends to go. But I also have to talk about the elephant in the room, the big announcement yesterday. So Asmodee put out AMG and Asmodee, I should say, put out this massive statement. Basically, it's talking about scaling back Shatterpoint and bringing Legion and Marvel Crisis Protocol into the center stage of being flagship games. Obviously, we're going to talk about this more, but it's also been said by numerous AMG people that this announcement from yesterday is not the announcement they're doing today. These are two separate announcements. They just happen to come at the same time, what makes it so it seems like they're connected. They're not the same thing. So what we're going to watch on the stream is going to be a different, just a different announcement. Now, my thoughts were that with all these graphics and everything right here, that was going to be, generally a positive, like the thumbs up. It's like fun, exciting graphics. I was thinking that this is going to be like a new game or a new IP coming in or a new product line or a new strategy for gaming, like for example, crowdfunding, because again, Fantasy Flight kind of posted that. I'm going to get to your questions in chat here in just a minute, so make sure drop them down there. I'm gonna get to those. I just want to outline everything here in the middle. This is a live stream watch party. It'll be on demand, so if you miss something, you can always rewind and watch back again later, and all of that. But yes, I don't think it's going to be as simple though as regular Legion product. I think if it's going to be anything for like Legion or Marvel Crisis Protocol, that it's probably going to be something major for those, like a new terrain or a whole new format, or where or something even bigger than that probably. But I don't think it's going to be just like, oh, hey, here's a new Shadow Collective box or something like that. I think because they would just do that at Adepticon. Whatever this is something they probably wanted out before Gamma, which is, I think, like in next week, and before Adepticon. They wanted this to build hype before retailers see stuff at Gamma. It's probably going to have something to do with some kind of retail product, which isn't really that much of a speculation. But I also want to talk about this announcement because there's plenty of time to talk about this. Somebody says Star Wars Armada coming back. I don't think so. But it is possible. I mean, nothing's impossible, right? Especially if there is demand. I wouldn't hang my hopes on Armada or X-Wing having major news. So here's what it says. So this was yesterday. This came out last night. Atomic Mass Games announces strategic focus on key game lines to strengthen core portfolio and support long-term growth. Atomic Mass Games, the Asmodee studio dedicated to miniatures games, today announced a strategic focus on several key game lines. Interesting that they say several. Several does mean more than two. And they're really only talking about the strategic focus on two here. So I think that there's probably at least one more game line coming. And that's maybe what this announcement is going to be. I don't know. Or I'm just reading too much into it, which I love to do. So let's take a lot of this with a grain of salt. But it is fun to speculate. So that's definitely a thing. But yes, AMG will focus its support on flagship titles and realign its resources towards these priorities, involving adjustments to the studio's organizational structure. As part of this restructuring, the studio will now be led by co-heads of studio Will Schick and Brandon Anderson. Now, one thing that I didn't realize is there was also some layoffs and some people did lose their jobs. So this isn't always good news. So definitely condolences out there to anyone who is now looking for employment. When these shakeups happen, unfortunately, that's kind of the nature of the business. Every couple of years, something like this happens, and it's always unfortunate. So my condolences, absolutely, and hopefully everybody lands on their feet. If you are in the gaming industry, definitely please reach out to AMG and to different people that that there's a lot of game developer folks that are probably out there on the job market right now. So if you do, if you're in the industry and if you have openings, definitely try to pick some of these people up. Okay. So it says a stronger focus on flagship games. The key driver of the reorganization is to allow Atomic Mass Games to enhance focus on its flagship titles of Star Wars Legion and Marvel Crisis Protocol. And then it says Shatterpoint will be transitioning to a specialist core game line. Now this is interesting because it doesn't say that they're shutting it down. However, usually they don't always say that when they're shutting stuff down as gracefully as this. And I think people are going to read into this in a lot of different ways, and it certainly could be any of these things. There's a lot of different things it could be. But we are looking at Shatterpoint here. So it says, basically, let me find where I was. So as a specialist game, Shatterpoint will continue to be supported to ensure consistent availability and the highest levels of gameplay experience possible by AMG while streamlining the number of releases to align with the restructured development resource of the studio. That is probably, almost certainly translates to fewer releases. We do know that there is some stuff already in development. We know that the First Order is coming. Hopefully that continues to come out. But it may be that they kind of want to wrap up Shatterpoint. But the interesting thing here is that they're going to continue to support it. What that means is you'll probably still see organized play, and you'll probably still see the kits in stock, like reprints of existing kits, maybe less, or maybe none, or some but fewer future development. That's where I think Shatterpoint is going. They're kind of just say, all right, let's put this into like reprint mode. Look at Imperial Assault, still in print, right? So still a great game. Nothing says that you have to stop playing Shatterpoint. Nothing says that they're not going to make some new stuff for Shatterpoint. You probably just won't get as much for Shatterpoint. That obviously is going to come as a shock to Shatterpoint players. Again, this was a newer game. And if you're a Shatterpoint player and you're very upset about that, I definitely feel you, and I'm sorry that it's as bad news, but I don't think it necessarily has to be bad news, because as long as, again, for the X-Wing and Armada folks out there, once the game is no longer in print, it becomes much more difficult to bring new players in and to keep your community going. As long as there is the product's still in print, it's still on store shelves, and it's still getting supported with organized play kits and even occasional new product, that is going to keep life in the game. So I don't think that Shatterpoint is completely going away, at least not at this time. It's just changing to it. And I feel like this shouldn't come as too much of a shock, because for the past year and a half or so, Shatterpoint really hasn't had very much in the way of new products. There's been a few things, but it's been very, very light on new products. So this is just kind of maybe stating the quiet part out loud, where it's going to a slower release schedule, but still being in print. And I think that that's probably okay, but I am not a very active Shatterpoint player. I've played a little bit. I think the models are great quality, but it's not my game. It's not my favorite game. So, my perspective is of that. However, I do know what it's like to have your favorite games kind of slowly go into they're not getting new stuff anymore. So there's definitely a cautionary way to approach that. The interesting thing I also want to talk about is at the bottom of this, there's some statements, there's some more kind of corporate speak, but it says our goal is a quote from David Preddy. David Preddy is relatively new to Asmodee. He was the CMON crowdsourcing director, right? So he's now over at Asmodee. He's got a new title as well. And so it says, our goal is to build a stronger and more focused studio that can better cater to the needs of our players, says David Preddy, head of crowdfunding strategy and miniatures lines at Asmodee. So their crowdfunding strategy guy is also the head of miniatures lines. That's why I think what we're looking at for today's announcement is going to involve crowdfunding, especially since this guy is the first person to have a quote here. We go on into looking ahead. There's a lot of talk about Legion and MCP, and the allowing them more development time to focus on those games, bring more battle forces, or they call them sub factions, and focus on other game modes and bringing those things like Spec Ops and full scale war. So there has been some speculation that maybe Spec Ops is going to get an actual a box or a kit or some kind of on store something in particular. That could be very interesting. It really could. I would love to see, I've never wanted to play Spec Ops, even though it looks interesting to me, but because without physical cards, without a physical box, it just doesn't seem like it's a real game mode to me. So once it comes, if they do kind of make it official, and kind of get it out of this alpha test mode, I think I'm gonna be more willing to try it. Although full scale war is right up my alley, so I don't mind trying that even if it's in an alpha state. So that is some of my thought. That's some of my thoughts. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts. We'll get to some of your questions. I want to hear some of your speculations. And we are over 100 viewers, so give me a hashtag force push if you want to win one of these. I can't zoom into it as well, but this was one of the first alternate art force pushes, and we've got German, French, and Spanish. So if you win, I'll ask you if you have a preference. I can't guarantee you'll get the one that you want. But also the way that these giveaways go, I'll once I announce the winner, you have to email me. But you have to let me know what you've won, because there are, in the email, you have to let me know what you've won, because I will do lots of giveaways. If we get a lot of viewers, we'll do even more giveaways and all of that. So make sure you share this video. If we get over 200 viewers, we'll do it. For every 100 viewers we get, we'll do another giveaway. So again, share the video out with you in your groups. You may have people who are working today that don't have access to Twitch, but might have access to YouTube. And that's one of the reasons I do this. I actually took the day off of work so I could come home and stream this. So I'm doing this for you guys. There's a lot of people at work that can have YouTube open. I know it's a thing. There's a lot of instructional stuff on YouTube, and it's kind of frowned upon to have Twitch open at work, but you can have YouTube open. You can at least listen and all of that good stuff. So that's something to think about. But that's kind of one of the reasons we do all of this. But I definitely want to hear some of your stuff. Let's see what do we have here? I'm going to check the chat. Let's see. Morgan Evans says, my bet is Spec Ops rules refresh ahead of the product launch. That's definitely a possibility, because that would be something of one of their core games related that's not just strictly like a new expansion. This is kind of like a new way to play. And if they were doing Spec Ops, I've always thought a cool way to do it, since it is like saying, hey, well, a Stormtrooper box is a whole Spec Ops team, but there's different cards for every miniature in that box, right? Is kind of like how they did Legion 2.0 in or second edition with like the new box art. They should have a different set of cards in there. So like every box you get should have its own set of Spec Ops cards if they have a Spec Ops, right? You should start off with a Spec Ops starter that has all of the cards for all of the squads that are legal in Spec Ops that already exist. This would be like your special forces troops, your core unit troops, so on and so forth. And then anytime a new expansion comes out from this day forward, if they are like a core unit, if they are a infantry special forces, or maybe even an infantry support that happens to have a Spec Ops, team, they'll also have those cards in the box. So this way people can get the starter and have everything, or they can, just jump in later on. That's something I always thought would be a cool way to do it. And since that would constitute a change to all products moving forward, I can see that being like an early announcement. It's a way to get people playing Legion cheaper and quicker and earlier, and give veteran players a new way to play that maybe you can play in a shorter amount of time. There's a lot of things like that. Mode has had success in other games. If you look at Kill Team, for example, or if you look at Spearhead for Age of Sigmar, like that mode, and Spearhead is probably closer to Recon, but I guess Warcry would be maybe the equivalent for Age of Sigmar for that timeline. But yes, having that kind of that jumping in point, that's like a small squad, that tends to work for a lot of games, and I think there's a lot of people who like it. I don't think it would ever be like my main way to play, because I kind of like bigger battles. But I think it'd be worth checking out, and it could be fun. It could be fun to film. I see people talking about Armada. I've seen a lot of folks talking about space. So let's talk about space stuff, because as much as it could be Legion related, I feel like if it's strictly Legion, maybe it would have also worked at Adepticon. If it's a new game, I think it fits into here, or if it's a relaunch of an older game. Now, I don't think they're going to redo Armada or X-Wing, but if they did, one of the big problems with those games is that the factories that were making them had gone up in price, and it became like massively gone up in price. I don't have exact figures, but I know that it was so significant that that's what it caused them to just say, you know what, screw it, we're not doing this anymore. Because... And I know a lot of people now are looking at stuff and be like, oh, geez, people will actually buy. If you look at what people are doing like on Etsy and stuff like that, I think, there's definitely a lot of people who are proving that they're willing to buy unpainted ships and paint them, because that's literally the only option now, right? So maybe if they wanted to relaunch one of these games, it would have taken a break and say, okay, we're relaunching it. And like theoretically, I could see them doing something like, okay, X-Wing and Armada on a sprue, unpainted. You'll have to build them yourself, and you'll have to paint them yourself. But they can come back this way. And obviously there's risk in that. So you put it on GameFound. It either funds or it doesn't fund. GameFound is, a great way to minimize your risk and not have to, make sure you're producing as much as you want. And if it doesn't, if there's not interest and it doesn't fund, then it won't fund. But I think that'd be a really cool way to do it. I think there's risk in doing that for X-Wing or Armada, though, because I think some of the communities might have burned bridges. And so that might be a limiter. So that's why I kind of don't know if they'll do specifically X-Wing or Armada. But what I wouldn't be surprised is if there is some kind of spaceship game, whether it be one of those exactly or an all-new one. I think that's what we're likely to see. Maybe, I can easily see Atomic Mass Games doing a spaceship game. They have the Star Wars license. There are no current spaceship games for Star Wars. It just makes sense. Maybe the scale is something different than we've seen before. There's obviously, I have things that I would love to see out of spaceship games. Like if I would love for them to zoom out and scale a little bit more, so this way we can actually have bigger fleet battles. Like I would love to have, 10 Star Destroyers on the field, and things like that, and to have a true armada instead of just like 3 ships. So like that would be kind of a cool thing. Then again, dogfighting is fun. People would love to see something more arcade or skirmish style. I do hope that whatever they come up with does allow for a little bit more like aggressive, like just deathmatch kind of stuff. Because I personally, I'm a big fan of deathmatch stuff. I understand games tends to need to also have objectives in addition to just the killing, but I lean more towards the killing personally. So that is definitely a thing. So yeah. Let's see. All right. Let's see. We got that. Okay. Let me see. I'm just checking chat here. All right. So I also see people talking about new IPs coming to Atomic Mass Game. So who was this? This just said DC. I've seen stuff like that. I could easily see DC Comics coming to Marvel Crisis Protocol. I don't know if it would be allowed to follow the exact same rule set, if they'd have to change it a little bit. But I think if they did that, they could maybe do it in a way where it's like loosely compatible. Like maybe the dice are slightly different, but like, so like technically they're not the same. But like stuff like that has happened before. It happened with Simon, right? With they had a Zombicide version for Marvel, and then they had a Zombicide version for DC, and they weren't exactly the same, but anything in that Zombicide system kind of works. That much is really interesting to me. So let's see. Also, let me know where you guys are watching from today. Let me know in chat where everybody is. But yeah, points win games. Oh, yes, they do. So I'm going to go ahead and cite like a Star Wars Armada reference here. Star Wars Armada is a game that is primarily a deathmatch, but also always has an objective. And those objectives absolutely are important. But I feel like it's maybe like a 60-40 weight as far as combat versus objective. You can't just play the objective and ignore combat in most games. I mean, 90% of the time, you having to do some of both. And usually you have to do like 60% focused on combat, and then the objectives is the other 40%. So if you completely table somebody, you're going to win. And it is definitely, in Armada, you can table somebody. It's definitely a thing that can happen. Doesn't always happen, but, happens maybe like 20 to 30% of the time, give or take. That's a rough estimate based on my games, but I tend to play a little aggressively. It might be a little bit less for, competitive and safe players. But I say all of that to say that's kind of the balance that I like. I like going into it and saying, I'm not going to really focus too much on this objective. I'm going to focus more on killing, and then I still have a reasonable shot of winning. Whereas if it's close, if the game is kind of close, I can lean into that objective to give me a clear advantage. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know. I might be outmatched here, but that's okay. I'll make up the difference by scoring the objective. And now I've got a realistic shot. Like, I kind of like that general balance where, and a part of that is because I play a lot of different games, and as a creature of habit, I tend to fall into the exact same objectives over and over again. Every once in a while, I'll play an objective that I'm not familiar with, or I haven't played in so long that I kind of forget what it does, and then my brain is just like, you know what? I don't want to have to think too much about it. I'm just going to try and kill him. And in those games, I still have a reasonable shot. Like, it's not like because there are other games where if you ignore the objective, you have zero chance of winning. And I don't like that. With I like to be able to just say, I'm going to ignore the objective, and I still have a shot at winning. I guess that's kind of what I like to do. Because again, sometimes I just want to play a game and I don't want to have to think too hard about it. So yes, we're almost at 200 viewers. So we're going to pick a second winner for a Force Push promo for Star Wars Legion. Again, we have three different languages. We've got French, we've got Spanish, and we've got German. You'll get one of those give me a hashtag force push in the chat. Yeah, because we just crossed 200. We just crossed 200 viewers, guys. Thank you for that. So I see at work from we got Alberta, Canada. We've got New York. We've got Vienna, Austria. We've got Nottingham. We've got Boise, Idaho, Boston. Well, I assume that's Boston. We've got Minneapolis. What's going on, Minneapolis? Hope you guys are staying warm out there. Las Vegas, DC Crisis. I thought you were saying you're in Washington D.C., but you're talking about DC Crisis Protocol. Tennessee. We've got people from all over. Nice to see other people in other countries watching too. Very cool. Pennsylvania, Georgia. All right. San Jose, California. Dublin, Ireland. Well, hello there. Hello from Ohio. All right. Wales. Exeter, UK. San Diego, California. Ohio. Twin Cities. Lots of Twin Cities, folks. Oh, Mr. Fuchs. Hello there, sir. Well, welcome. Thank you for hanging out with us today. Houston, London, Utah, Sweden. Oh, my goodness. We are, all right, force push. Let's see here. All right. So we are, if we get to 300 views, we'll do another giveaway. But again, so share the video with your groups, with your communities. We're about to start. So, yeah, as soon as it starts, I'm going to swap over. It'll be like this. So, and we're going to talk more after. Okay. So that's what we're doing.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me this morning for a very exciting Atomic Mass Games new game announcement. I'm Will Schick, the VP of Creative Development and Strategy for Atomic Mass Games, and it's my privilege today to get to present to you all out there the next entry in our overall catalog. So to set things up a little bit before I show you our kick-ass trailer that we have today to start everything off, you know, one of the great things that we're able to do here at Atomic Mass is to take our creative energies and passions and look at the things that we've made and how we can greatly expand upon and bring new players into an overall experience. And of course, when we look at the overall catalog, one of the things that we were really excited to do was to go back to Marvel Crisis Protocol and say, how do we take the experience that has enraptured and captivated so many tabletop miniatures players and bring that to a new audience? And if you've ever heard me talk, you know that I'm a huge proponent and lover of the nostalgia of the arcade and going to the arcade with my friends, standing shoulder to shoulder at the cabinet and doing some classical beat-em-ups. One of the things that we did when we first launched Marvel Crisis Protocol was to release what we called Ultimate Encounters, which were multiplayer scenarios that allowed 2 or more players to team up against an ultimate boss controlled by a third player. In order to kind of capture the excitement and the dynamic action of what we see in the comics, but also what we kind of experienced playing couch co-op games or games in the arcades together against an insurmountable boss. One of the things we often heard from players, of course, was how do we do that but do it together without having to have somebody control that boss? And I'm happy to tell you that we've taken that exciting idea. We've been working tirelessly on what I'm about to show you with our trailer, of course, all across the studio. Folks have poured their passion and talent into this, and now I'm excited to say that a brand new product within the Marvel Crisis Protocol line that stands not within, but next to this skirmish tabletop game is about to be unleashed, and let's roll the trailer to show you exactly what I'm talking about.
Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances.
Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances, a brand new 1 to 4 player, fully cooperative, team-centric beat-em-up board game set in the Marvel Universe. Our first entry, Night of the Goblin, features characters from the Spider-Verse, including Spider-Man, Spider-Man Miles Morales, Black Cat, and Ghost Spider, teaming up to take on the nefarious Green Goblin and his Goblin army. Players need to work together throughout the course of different missions on their way to battle the final confrontation against the Green Goblin as the boss. Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances takes several aspects from board games that all of us in the studio love and enjoy, including the hack and slash beat 'em up action, adventure game RPG light elements where players are going to be able to gain experience points, level up their characters, and choose their kind of tech trees going forward to unlock new abilities for themselves and for the team. And of course, the dynamic and exciting climactic action of a boss battler, where at the end of a game session, players are going to wind up facing off against the chosen boss for the overall Alliance's experiences, and have to battle against a nefarious AI, which is different for every boss within the line. One of the things that's so exciting about this game is the fact that we get to explore different teams, different villains, different areas within the Marvel Universe, and have those all be compatible with each other. So as the line continues to grow, players are going to be able to mix and match their heroes, their villains, their goons, everything together to create very unique experiences. One of the things that was really important to us with this game is that, unlike a traditional adventure game where players might play one mission per session over the course of 9 weeks, we wanted you to get all of the action, all of the excitement, and the conclusion in one play session. So you're actually going to be able to play 3 different stages in a normal game of Alliances, where you will face off against 2 normal entry levels, where players will gain experience, have to complete different mission objectives on their way to battle the boss. Everything within the game is played within 90 minutes to 2 hours, which means that this is perfect for a family sit-down session where you can play a game, have a complete experience with your heroes, see your characters level up, and fight the boss all in one evening. In addition to all of that, I'm excited to talk about another innovation for this game, which really culminates with the talent, the experience, and the skill of everyone here within our engineering and sculpting department. And that is, you'll notice that we've made these incredible board game miniatures. And they look very similar to the miniatures that you might see in a game of Marvel Crisis Protocol. However, unlike the traditional Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures, these miniatures use what we call our FAST system, or Fusion Assembly System. What this means is a fancy tag that you're going to learn a lot more about in the coming months, where these miniatures are press fit. They require no glue at all. So in fact, all you have to do is simply clip the parts off of the frame and plug them together, and they will stick together perfectly for all game sessions without any need for glue. We're really excited by this opportunity, not only because it shows the innovation and the growth that we've had as a studio in terms of our mastery over hard plastic miniatures production, but also because by removing the elements of glue, by making this more of a constructible building experience, it opens the door to plenty more players out there in the world to be able to experience the joy of hobby. And if you want to paint them, they're going to paint up great, just like any Marvel Crisis Protocol miniature. If you just want to use them in their classic board game colors and continue to get into the action, you can absolutely do that too. So again, this is something that we are so thrilled to be bringing to people. There's going to be hands-on experiences to be able to try this system as we move closer towards the release of the first game, which is going to be early fall, late summer of this year. Currently, we're targeting a early September release. So you can look forward to that with the surprise X-Men related Attack of the Sentinels follow-up coming very early in 2027. And the last thing that I do want to point out is the reason that we're announcing this today is because we are going to be at 2 different shows in the coming month of March. We're going to be at GAMA starting next week. And so if you are a retailer or an attendee for GAMA, you're going to be able to see a lot more of the game and get hands-on experience with it there by talking to us, by coming to our announcement panels. We're going to be talking more about the line and revealing more about our plans for it going forward. And of course, if you're one of the players coming to Adepticon, boy, do we have an experience for you if you're interested. That's going to be the very first place where players across the world are going to have the chance to be able to do live demos of the game at our exhibit booth. In addition, we're also going to be, of course, featuring more information about the future of the line and what to expect at our roadmap and keynote presentation as well. So there's a lot of exciting things to come. This is just the start and the kind of introduction to Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances. plenty more information, including more web articles and all that kind of stuff is going to be coming soon following Gamma and following the appearance at Adepticon. We're really excited for this next step for the studio as well as for the Marvel Crisis Protocol line, and we can't wait to introduce an entirely new group of players into the Marvel Universe and the joy of tabletop hobby miniatures games with this fully co-op, team-based experience, Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances. Thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I can't wait to talk to you all more about this game and about everything else that's happening at Atomic Mass Games, as well as to see many of you in person at Gamma and Adepticon this coming March. Till next time, keep your brushes points sharp and be sure to always roll crits. Thank you very much and goodbye.
All right. Well, that was not what I was expecting, but it's similar because it was, again, it was related to a line, and it was, yeah, interesting. So I guess first reaction, it's a fully co-op game, and it's an alternate way to get into Marvel Crisis Protocol, it looks like. I have questions. I have a lot of questions about this. For one, it seems like, it's almost like a gateway game for some folks. But I'm curious about the base sizes, right? Like, is the Green Goblin from this going to be compatible with Marvel Crisis Protocol? Because I don't know if the base sizes are going to be the same on all of that stuff. So that's one of those questions. It looks kind of like it's big, but because there's hexes on that board, I'm curious if it can. Yeah. Now I know a lot of you guys are Star Wars fans. We do have some Marvel fans in here also. We also did hit 300 viewers, so we're going to do our third. Give me a hashtag Force Push if you want to win a Force Push for Star Wars Legion. One of the promo Force Pushes. We did break 300 viewers, so we're going to do another giveaway, and then I'll be announcing them all here in a little bit. But yes, so just hashtag Force Push, and we'll get you in there. So let me see here. All right. Let me pull up some of the graphics and we'll talk about it a little bit, because this is an interesting one. Let me pull all of this stuff. I'll get some of your thoughts too. I think some people were kind of hoping that we were going to see something more Star Wars related. The interesting thing was it is a new game line, right? It is a new game line. And also, I'll point out something else. Will Schick, I don't know if you guys noticed when he was talking, his title still said, what was it? It wasn't the new title. So definitely that these things weren't planned, right? Like yesterday's announcement, it probably wasn't. I think it came as a surprise to folks that it happened so suddenly. So yeah, but that's something. So this is interesting. So Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances, they announced this. There's going to be multiple boxes. So this is going to come in kind of different sets that you can play. Fully co-op, I guess you can play 3 rounds. You kind of level up your characters in between rounds. I'm assuming the different sets will also be cross-play compatible, like Night of the Goblin is going to have these Spider-Man characters, but then there's an X-Men set coming, Attack of the Sentinels. And you'll probably be able to mix and match. I bet you can probably take X-Men and Spider-Man and mix them all together. So that's interesting. I think the kids are going to really like this one, is what I think. I'm not huge on co-op personally. I know my kids like this. I like the idea of kind of an intro hobby aspect here, though you can kind of clip them out and just push fit them together. I think it's a good idea to at least test the waters with that. Definitely, like Warhammer does a little bit of that sometimes for their intro products. In this case, if you're targeting like gaming with the family, gaming with the kids, gaming with newcomers, also this is a good way to do that. I don't think it's everybody's all of my core audience's favorite type of product, but that's certainly not anything bad. And it has a game board. So I think this is the more interesting thing, is that because when they split all the studio stuff up, it seemed like FFG was going to be doing the board and card game kind of stuff, and especially with Fantasy Flight doing Zombicide and AMG doing doing this is interesting to me, because they're both board games that have a lot of miniatures, and maybe those lines can be blurred a little bit at this time. Again, things were different once upon a time. Also, because this goes directly into Marvel Crisis Protocol, I'm not like really that shocked that it happened. By the way, if you guys haven't played Marvel Crisis Protocol, it is a very, very fun game. I don't talk about it all the time on this channel. I don't. I have certain people that I play it with. I don't play it all the time, so I'm a little rusty on it. But when I do play it, I really, really enjoy it. I have a lot of MCP stuff, and it's just a really solid, a really fun game. And it has, to me, I play it very casually, so I can't really talk about it with authority of like, well, this character's broken and this character's the best in game and this is what they should do. I just play it and just let it take me on the story ride it wants to take me on, because it's a blast. They also have a new fusion system, the fusion assembly. So I think it's a cool thing. I wonder if they'll do similar stuff with this for Legion in the future. I'm not sure. I do think that again, we were talking similarly about this, and we were talking about Spec Ops coming with a physical kind of intro, an easy way to get interested in Legion without having to buy the whole core set. It's funny because this is kind of the same thing, right? It's kind of the same thing. And the thing is, I'm curious where this fits. This is another question I have. Is like, I'm curious where this game fits with their new announcement for like their flagship titles. Like, I don't see this as being a flagship title. I see this as being kind of one of those support titles. This is going to be a game that probably won't have expansions. It's just a game that is a standalone game, and it's a game in a series. They'll make more of these. They already have an X-Men one announced, and presumably more after that. But it's not a game that's like a reprint is all you need. You just need to keep it in print and keep it in stock and keep it available. You don't have to keep doing development on this Goblin scenario, for example. So, I don't think this will fall into their flagship lines. So there still could be, more games and things like that in development. And this is kind of a good middle ground, because it doesn't require them to completely reinvent the wheel. They can still use the same art. They can still use the same sculpts, even though they have to kind of re-engineer them to be a different. I don't know if that requires a whole new sculpt or not. I'm going to get to some of your guys' questions. Let's talk. Oh, let's announce some winners too. So we've got winners to announce. Let's do this, and then I'll also take your questions. All right. So the first Force Push winner is going to be Phaedros X. Congratulations, Phaedros X. The second Force Push winner is going to be the 8-Shoe-1. Congratulations, the 8-Shoe-1. And the third Force Push winner is going to be Darth Hobbito 7. Darth Hobbito 7. All three of you, congratulations. Email me at mailcrabbok@gmail.com on the back end of my channel. You can get it off of my website or on the About page of my channel. It's mailcrabbok@gmail.com. Let me know what you've won, and if you have a language preference. I can't guarantee you'll get it, but I have between Spanish, French, and German. I have some of those. So let me know your preferences of which one you'd prefer, and I'll see what I can do for the alternate language Force Push cards for Star Wars Legion. So we are, oh gosh, and we're close. Gamma's right around the corner. I'll be at Adepticon. If I have time, I would love to check this out. So maybe I can get some early video stuff for this one. Let's come to you guys. I see Games Theory says MCP is fine, good models, but seems to be similar to Shatterpoint being an offshoot of Legion. Did it make money? Can we do something similar? And Increase says, well, so MCP isn't at all an offshoot of Legion. MCP is its own standalone game, plays completely different to Legion, but I think Shatterpoint was more of sort of an offshoot of MCP. And the interesting thing about that is I feel like Shatterpoint was made it was being developed when Atomic Mass Games had initial success with MCP and Legion was still under Fantasy Flight. This game was already in development, but all studios were totally independent and were going strong. Once this merger happened due to the sale and all this other stuff, when all the games came together, Shatterpoint was still well under development. I think it's sort of like an inevitable conclusion that, once you put both of these under the same studio, and they're similar because they're both Star Wars dudes on a map miniatures game, one was going to rise to the top, and one was going to sink to the bottom. Right? I don't think you could have. They were too similar, like they were competing game systems, and it was. I think it was inevitable that one was going to have to kind of become the flagship title. So. I think that's just kind of the way it goes. I think for a miniature studio, you kind of probably want games to kind of stand apart from each other a little bit more. That's why I thought they were going to be doing a spaceship game, and they still may at some point. Maybe it's too soon, but yeah. But MCP is a different scale, a lot more of like a fun factor game. I think, at least the way I play it. But yeah, let me know if you guys like co-op games too, and some of your thoughts on co-op. The funny thing about co-op doesn't always mean purely cooperative, because even if it's a universal fail condition, like if the Green Goblin wins, we all lose. There's still like that person who kind of contributes the most, or that person who does the best, or gets the most XP, or gets the most kills, or like sometimes there's still a winner in a co-op game. And you can, like, I always would do that with Zombicide, for example. First co-op I ever played. And I love Zombicide, but I don't always feel like I'm in the mood to play a cooperative game. But when you do, it's very, very easy to just be like, okay, well, whoever gets the most XP wins. Like, we can all lose, and we all want to win, but if we do all win, then we can look at who got the most XP. And if you do that, it makes the game a little harder, because then maybe one person's like, I'm not going to leave and let us finish the scenario yet. I want to farm XP a little bit more, and then you put the whole party at risk. So that can increase the difficulty a little bit if people aren't cooperating as much. Let's see. So they say early fall, possible, aiming for early September. We're going to see this game come out. Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances, and look, it's a cool idea. I'm not sure how well it's going to do and I think it depends on who they market it to. I think there's a lot of people out there that like board games. I think this is possibly a smart way for AMG to reach a lot of different tabletops that they weren't reaching already. I think there's definitely a significant number of people who are going to be playing this, but not necessarily full-blown Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think people can look at this and say, hey, this is an all-in-one board game. I don't have to buy anything else. I have the entire experience right here. And if I like it, then maybe I'll pick up the X-Men version also. And if I like that, well, now I've got enough stuff maybe to play Marvel Crisis Protocol if I want to. That's kind of, and if so, frankly, I think that's brilliant. It might not appeal to my audience perfectly. I think there's definitely some crossover. I don't know if I think a lot of you guys wanted something more Star Wars. But again, a lot of us like more than one thing, right? But I think this is really smart, and so that's my thought on it. You thought AMG were going to announce they're bringing Avatar to the table, being another Disney. Oh, Avatar! I was thinking you meant Avatar: The Last Airbender, which I would love that one too. That'd be very, very cool. Yeah, no. Let's see. Co-op. Let's see. Frontierosaurus says co-op is a lot easier to get people into the hobby to play and try to get into it. Absolutely. I think you're absolutely right there. Granted, your core wargaming people, this probably isn't doing as much for them. But then again, they're going to be getting a lot more in the future, because we have tons of announcements for all of these game lines that are coming out at Adepticon. I think it was important to get this news out there before Gamma. Gamma is a lot more of a wider appeal. Again, it's for retailers. This one might kind of be hit or miss at Adepticon because Adepticon is specifically targeting the folks that are miniature wargamers. This one will probably do really well at Gen Con. I wouldn't be surprised if this one launches. When is Gen Con? Gen Con is maybe. I think Gen Con is in August, so it's right before September. It's possible that this might have an early release at Gen Con. I think that's they didn't say anything about that. This is me purely speculating here, but the timetable kind of lines up there a little bit, so it's possible it would match certain things that have happened with companies in the past. Either way, I think that's a good crowd for it. Air Nate says, was hoping for a larger scale Star Wars game. Give me my AT-ATs. Oh yeah. I think it would be bad timing to announce a larger scale Star Wars game right now, right after another Star Wars game kind of changed scope with Shatterpoint. But I would love to see that at some point. I really would. Much larger, like a 6mm game. Yeah, I'd love to see that. I think that would work. I think it would work really, 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 really well. And I think it'd be different enough from Legion. I also would love it if like a really large scale game like that was more about just like, like a deathmatch. Like just take your huge army and just kill the other person. Then again, full scale war might get us part of the way there. Looking forward to that. CBS Inc. says, I would love a Legion Spec Ops box as well. 40k kill team version of Legion would be a great starting point for full scale Legion players. Absolutely. I think that's something that they should do. I would love to see that. I think, again, if this works well, this is probably a building block towards doing that, towards actually printing out, like a kill team type scenario for Legion. Maybe they'll make it a little bit more board gamer friendly for kill team. Like they might have a board in there. I don't have a problem with that. But yes, Darth Hobbito 7 says, what do you think AMG means by more sub-factions? Is this like Gungans, Hutts, and Sand People, etc.? Oh, it's Gungans, baby. I'm staking my checkered reputation on it. I really hope so. I mean, they're in the rule book, right? Gungans are in there's art there. I think they wanted to have Gungans out already. Look, I'll say this. If they don't come, if Gungans aren't announced at Adepticon this year, then maybe it means we're just never going to see them, and it's time to stop asking. I don't know. Because, like, if not now, then when? Because, really, last year would have been a good year for it. Because I think that was the 25th anniversary of the Phantom Menace, and so it would have been, it would have been really cool. Yeah. Has it started yet? No, we're in the post-show. If you are just watching us, AMG's announcement was a game, a sort of like a companion game to Marvel Crisis Protocol called Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliances. This is a cooperative board game that uses miniatures that look like they're fully MCP compatible, but it's on like a hex board. Plays over 3 rounds, cooperative. It has sort of like a leveling up and new abilities that you can gain. So you gain experience and you upgrade your characters over the course of the 3 rounds of the game, culminating in a final boss fight. In this case, it'll be Green Goblin. There's also going to be miniatures in here, but they're not going to be difficult to assemble miniatures. They're going to be miniatures that are push fit. You do not need any glue. You just have to clip them out and push them in. So it's going to be very aiming to be new player friendly, board gamer friendly, an all-in-one, one-stop shop. And it looks like it's going to be using, like, again, similar sculpts from Marvel Crisis Protocol, but a new implementation of them where there's no glue required. And you don't have to paint them if you don't want to. If you'll notice, the miniatures they're showing on here are not painted. I imagine they will demo these possibly in an unpainted fashion, specifically to point out, yeah, you don't have to paint these, but you can if you want to. And if you do like that stuff, that's a step towards, hey, you'll take a look at Marvel Crisis Protocol also. I think honestly, I think it's a smart way to approach this kind of stuff. Even if it's not for everybody, I think it's going to bring a lot more people into the hobby. So I think it's a cool thing to do. It is, yeah. So it is over. The stream was short. You can rewind if you want to hear all of it. So there, that's it. Sub factions for Shatterpoint or Legion. I don't think they're doing sub factions for. They already sort of have. Shatterpoint doesn't really have factions. They have eras. You can kind of mix good guys and bad guys all you want. Obviously, they have synergy with each other. So but you kind of define what your faction is in Shatterpoint. Let's see. What else do we got? Donnie Dynamo says, I am big on co-op in both board games and in minis games. They're way easier to demo at game stores or conventions than bring in new folks. That is a very true thing. There's a huge part of the board game and miniatures gaming community that likes working together, likes co-op. There's a lot of people that like solo games. And that is also something that I don't think they really showcased, in that any cooperative game typically can also be played solo. So if you are looking for a solo gaming experience, this might be your way to do that. You just have to play, more than one characters. So I think they did say it was a 1 to 4 player game, right? So, again, this was just our first look at it. They didn't highlight every single aspect of the game. There's obviously a lot more to learn, but again, a 1 to 4 player game does mean that this is also a solo. It's going to have a solitaire mode. Maybe the rules will change a little bit in solitaire if you're just controlling one character. Maybe you just want to kind of break the rules a little bit and control all 4 characters. I know some people like to do that. I've done things like that before also. So it looks like it'll be a lot of fun. That's my takes on it. Yeah, and that's I'd love to hear some more of your thoughts. We're probably going to talk more about this in the coming days. I think a lot of people were kind of expecting a little bit more. I'll probably do a wrap up for this on Friday. We'll also be announcing the winner for the $25 Amazon gift card giveaway winner. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed, leave a comment, all of those things. That all that is coming on Friday. We have plenty to talk about. There's definitely a lot to talk about between this and then, of course, the other news, and also what we're expecting to see, because based on the other announcements as well, there's a lot to be gleaned. There's a lot that we can sort of guess that is coming for Legion as well. Like based on all these announcements too, there's still like a lot of positive spin for Star Wars Legion. I don't know if this means we're getting an AT-AT anytime soon, or any of the really huge things. I think stuff like that we'll have to take a look and see what the full scale war game looks like, because I'm really excited about that one. I'm curious what you guys think. So Adam Wright says the minis can be used for MCP2, right? I think that's where they're going. I think they can. But yeah, I think they absolutely can. Have you done a reaction to yesterday's AMG announcement? At the beginning of this stream, I did. I talked about it a little bit. You can rewind. It's on demand if you want. I'm going to probably do more of a formal one on Friday, where I talk about the announcements. It's a big deal, but I think Shatterpoint's going to mostly be okay. This is not a rest in peace to Shatterpoint. So, yeah. This is Shatterpoint slowing down, but it's already slowed down, right? They're just kind of telling you this in more corporate speak. They're like, yeah, the way I look at it is like Shatterpoint has had very few new expansions over the past year and a half or so. The last couple, like Mini Stravaganza or at whatchamacallit, at Adepticon last year, there was only like, it was just the stuff from Ahsoka, right? I think there was the 2 boxes, like the Mother Talzin or the, I'm sorry, what's her name, with the Blade of Talzin, and Baylan Skull, the box, right? So that's your flagship show for the whole year to announce all of your big stuff, and there wasn't very much. I'm okay with that, because again, I've played games that were kind of on, they call them like on life support or whatever. I played games like X-Wing and Armada that now aren't even in print anymore. So if it's only like 2 to 4 expansions a year, I don't think that that's really the death knell that people think it is. It is sudden, though, and I get that. But if they can maintain that, and I have a clear understanding that they definitely want to maintain Shatterpoint, they're going to keep it in print. You're going to be able to get new people into it. And because it is a miniatures game that, the miniatures come on a sprue, that means it's affordable to continue to produce. So, and it'll still be profitable. I just think it's competing too much with Legion for them to really dedicate a whole lot of development time to it right now, which is a smart move for the studio, and I think that's good news for Star Wars Legion. And if you're a casual Shatterpoint player, it means when you go back to play Shatterpoint again, it's probably going to have less fundamental changes. It's probably going to stay a stable game, and that means that return experience when you go back to it over and over again will stay the same. Or at least change only a little bit. There's nothing saying they can't do balance tweaks and things like that. I like the idea. I like the idea that a game can kind of stay similar. Will they release that Balin Skull pack for Shatterpoint, or did that get shelved? I think it's definitely coming. At Mini Stravaganza, they announced even a couple more things. They announced the First Order is coming to Shatterpoint. And that's really cool. Hopefully that still happens. I was really interested in that. And granted, I don't play a whole lot of Shatterpoint, but I like the idea of sequel trilogy stuff coming to games. Again, I'm not talking about the movies. I'm talking about how things from those movies will look on a tabletop. Kylo Ren is cool. I think First Order Stormtroopers are cool. I think Captain Phasma is cool. I think on the tabletop they're going to look really cool. Okay, I think it's possible to have mixed emotions on the films, but put that aside and think about how are these going to look on my tabletop? Is this something I want to play with? Because I think those are two separate things. I just caveat that because I know when I say that I'm interested in the First Order coming out for Shatterpoint, I know there's somebody going to say something about that. So I'm just beating the nail to the punch there. But yeah. Status says Shatterpoint will be kept. A lot fewer expansions. They blew their load quickly on that game. Pretty crazy. Yeah, I don't know if it was crazy. I think they gave it a solid launch. I think the problem with the launch of Shatterpoint was that it was competing with Legion, which was also getting a major push. Legion was doing really, really well. And I think when there came a decision point with AMG, is like, do we kind of keep going with Shatterpoint, or do we keep pushing with Legion's new edition? And clearly they've gone with Legion's new edition. That's the direction that they've gone. I think this announcement was just kind of stating the obvious. I think it was stating the way things already were. But in addition to that, there's also some shakeups and some personnel changes and stuff. So I think there are some people that are looking for work now too. So and that's always a shame to see. So I feel bad for that. Hopefully everybody lands on their feet soon and everybody finds work. But as far as the changes to the game systems, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of change here. I think they're just letting us know that this is the current direction. And I feel like it's the direction they've already been on for the past year and a half. So I think they're just formalizing that relationship. And maybe we will see even more new games announced over the next year or so. I would love to see a spaceship game. I'd actually, to be honest with you, I'd love to see Atomic Mass Games start doing games like a spaceship game for Twilight Imperium, or basically an IP that isn't held by an external license holder. I would love to see Atomic Mass Games do a Twilight Imperium, but it's already an Asmodee IP. Do a Twilight Imperium ship game. We already know Twilight Imperium ships do not come pre-painted, right? Like they just come in the box and they're just colored plastic. Similar to how, by the way, did you notice that the plastic in this box? Hold on, let me find my image. In Marvel Crisis Protocol Alliance, did you notice that that's colored plastic? Like you have blue plastic for the heroes and gray plastic for the bad guys and stuff like that. Like colored plastic is a really good step in a direction of not necessarily, like, basically being able to make a game with wider appeal and not necessarily saying you must paint this game. I liked when Fantasy Flight did that for their squadron packs for Armada. I like pre-colored plastic because you can still play it straight out of the box. You don't have to stop and prime and print and all that stuff. You can just be like, you know whose goes to what's. Simon did that with Zombicide. Your zombies were all of a certain type, were all one color. Your heroes each had a different color that matched kind of their card or whatever. And Mantic, Darth Hobbito, Mantic did that for Halo as well. Yeah, absolutely. You can do that. The red versus blue and all of that. Outside IPs tend to be limited. JP Gotro Kit says, yes, especially with Star Wars. There's only so much that you can take. Yeah. Now, granted, Star Wars is still a growing world. There's new media coming out all the time for Star Wars. I think the ceiling in Star Wars is very high as far as what you can do, but you are still bound by a license holder. So again, it's one of the things I think is really cool about GW and Warhammer is because they are also the keepers of their own lore. So they can make whatever they want. If AMG wanted to like create their own universe and say, here's a miniatures game, here's a spaceship game, here's a 6mm game or whatever, and it's our own universe, there's a huge risk there because you're not going to appeal. You appeal to a lot of people based on the IP, and that's tricky, right? It's really tricky. So those are some of my thoughts on everything. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think. If you wanted to hear my overall reaction on everything, including the news from yesterday, that'll be at the beginning of the video. You can rewatch all of it. But there's a new game. There's been a new game announced, a companion game for Marvel Crisis Protocol. I think it's a smart way to get new people into the hobby. I think it's a smart move. I think it's a smart business decision. And I hope it does really well. So that does look pretty cool. And maybe we'll check it out at Adepticon. So if you guys are interested in that, stay tuned. I will definitely cover it. I don't know if it's going to be a game I like stream all the time. I don't think it's going to rise to the level of being like one of my main games. But again, I like the idea of it. I like the way that they're doing it. I've been critical of Atomic Mass Games and some of the decisions in the past. I'm not trying to do that type of stuff as much anymore. But in this case, I will say I think it's a smart decision. I think it's a very smart decision. I think it's good for Marvel Crisis Protocol, and I think it's a smart decision for gaming overall to not have such a barrier to entry. So it's cool. It can get people hobbying a lot easier, and I think that's a cool thing as well. All right. I think that's going to do it. Bring back Imperial Assault with Legion minis. You can do that right now. Imperial Assault's still in print, as a matter of fact. Yeah. All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later. I want to thank you all so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are absolutely out of this world, patrons. By the way, patrons, we're going to throw a force push on Patreon as well. We'll do that this week. So extra stuff for patrons. So if you guys are interested in signing up for Patreon, there's links in the description below. But that is going to do it. I will talk to you later. May the force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes, and always wash your socks.